Unless you've committed yourself to being willfully blind over the last few years, you will have noticed how the standard of policing and the standard of police themselves in the United Kingdom has dropped dramatically over the last few years. You will have noticed how certain people are being targeted, harassed, discriminated against, and abused, while others are given free pass after free pass. There's a reason why the terms two-tier policing and two-tier justice have become so prevalent recently. So prevalent, in fact, that the talking heads on the BBC and corporate news media shows have been required to run smear campaigns in an attempt to gaslight the public into thinking that two-tier policing is just an insane conspiracy theory, not real. There have been dozens and dozens of examples of members of the police force revealing how uninformed, highly biased, incompetent, politically motivated, and overall unsuitable they are to work as police officers. You probably remember the lesbian Nana episode from September 2023, in which an autistic teenage girl, who at the time was in her own home, stated that a female police officer looked like her lesbian Nana. The officer in question took umbrage at this and allowed her malevolence and her thirst for personal revenge to dictate her actions. The poor girl was arrested, dragged off to a police station and held in custody for hours, confused and terrified. Then there's the famous case of an officer telephoning a former police officer, Harry Miller, after Harry had joked online about being gender fluid. The officer actually informed Harry that he needed to check his thinking. More recently, a grandmother received a home visit from the police after she had posted what can only be described as a mild criticism of a local councillor in a Facebook community group. It's almost as if the police constabularies throughout the United Kingdom are at competition with each other to see who can be the most inventive in thinking of new ways to bully members of the public, assert dominance over them, enforce Orwellian and Kafkaesque rules, and just make life more miserable. This brings me to today's video, in which a police officer, name, badge and constabulary presently unknown, is shown questioning an elderly member of the public about what he was alleged to have said. What the officer subsequently said will shock you, even if you thought the British police couldn't be any more pathetic and tragic. Take a look.
If you do, that would be really handy for us, but apparently during some conversations between yourself, apparently you have alleged, we weren't here, so I don't know you've said it, but you've alleged to say, speak English, or what's that effect?
Speak clearly.
Speak clearly.
No,
okay.
The gentleman's partially deaf.
Yeah, he can speak clearly.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even hear him.
No, and that's fine, and that's why we've just come to speak, because potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
Didn't we just know this was going to happen?
No, I
didn't
know.
we?
People, you know, if someone says to me, officer, I believe this, then we need to look at it, because someone's potentially reporting to me as a crime.
Asking someone to speak English, potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime.
That's the what a
Remember when two-tier Keir Starmer, went to the US and spoke to Donald Trump and JD Vance and claimed that free speech was a thing in the UK?
Today at lunch.
We've had free speech for a very, very long time in the United Kingdom, and it will last for a very, very long time. In relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
Remember that? Potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime. Yes, potentially someone could perceive that as a hate crime. And also, potentially, someone could perceive that as an invitation to go and invade Poland. Potentially, someone could perceive that as an admission that they were the second gunman behind the grassy knoll and that they are responsible for Kennedy's assassination. Potentially, someone could perceive that as a declaration that their bodies are comprised entirely of jelly. Potentially, someone somewhere could perceive it to be those things. So it's a matter that you should take very seriously, of course. And we respect that. And we respect you, officer, very much. Firstly, the sentence is tremendously vague. It may be perceived as a hate crime, and also, it may not. Secondly, perception is not reliable. Subjective interpretation comes into play. What one person perceives as a hate crime may not be perceived as a hate crime by another person. Thirdly, I don't even like using the term hate crime because I don't want to legitimize the underlying concept. If you agree to use the postmodernist, politically motivated language, you've already given the advantage to your opponents. There is no such thing as hate speech, only speech that they hate. Hate crime is an illegitimate concept. The motivation behind a crime makes no difference to the outcome.
Hate crime laws, a savage hypocrisy. Yes, over the past few years, our great country has been developing new hate crime laws.
If somebody kills somebody, it's a crime. But if someone kills somebody of a different color, it's a hate crime.
And we think that that is a savage hypocrisy, because all crimes are hate crimes. If a man beats another man because that man was sleeping with his wife, is that not a hate crime? If a person vandalizes a government building, is it not because of his hate for the government?
The motivation for a crime shouldn't affect the sentencing.
Mayor, it is time to stop splitting people into groups. All hate crime laws do is support the ideas that blacks are different from whites, that homosexuals need to be treated differently from non-homos, that we aren't the same. But instead, we should all be treated the same, with the same laws and the same punishments for the same crime.
That made the most sense of any presentation I've heard in the last 3 years.
The concept also pushes people to view every confrontation and crime through the shallow lens of race versus race, which is not conducive to social cohesion. Mature and intelligent people don't like this obsession with race. They don't care for it. Race is not something that they spend a lot of time focusing on. Fourthly, the thing itself that supposedly may be perceived by someone somewhere as a hate crime, i.e. instructing someone to speak English. 3 words, get over it. 4 words, grow the fuck up. 6 words, get the fuck out of here. A coward in a uniform, getting pleasure out of policing the speech of regular, ordinary, reasonable people. At whose behest? With what aim? Unwilling or unable to investigate real crimes of actual significance, committed by genuinely dangerous people, the jumped up little wimp turns his attention to easy targets. Gotta meet those quotas, right fella? Stop entertaining these tragic excuses for police officers. Do not engage with them. They are not your friends. They aren't interested in protecting and serving. The evidence for that is in abundance. Never speak to the police. Ask them if you are being detained or arrested. If the answer is no, stop speaking to them. If the answer is yes, inform the police that you will only speak to them with your solicitor present. Do not provide them with any evidence that they can use against you. They will use it against you if you give them the opportunity to. And for the record, the gentleman in this video explained to the officer that he had in fact said, speak clearly. The person to whom he made this request? Unknown. Is his request unreasonable? Is there something wrong with it? Is it anything that any reasonable person could take offense at? No. It is perfectly acceptable for him to request that somebody speak clearly in order for him to understand him, in order for communication to take place successfully. This is entirely a non-issue that this pathetic excuse for a police officer is trying to turn into something, probably to make himself feel good, powerful. Perhaps he is a megalomaniac on a power trip. The man is a coward and doesn't have the decency, the bravery, the courage to challenge real threats to society. So he looks for easy targets. Out of frame in this video, you hear a woman, perhaps roughly the same age as the gentleman in this video. She explains that the man who is speaking to the police officer here is partially deaf, and therefore it stands to reason that he would have difficulty understanding people when they speak unless they speak clearly. Perhaps this officer is guilty of a non-crime hate incident against a man with a disability. Perhaps he should be reported. Finally, the intention is to socially engineer a climate of fear and a disinclination among the public to say anything that could potentially be perceived by someone somewhere as a hate crime or hate speech. Do not allow them to succeed. If we all say exactly what we want, when we want, how we want, there is literally nothing they can do about it. There is nothing they can do to us. We outnumber them. It's that simple, and it's time we remembered that. The police make arrests, and the corrupt corporate media publicise them in order to make examples and scare the wider public into silence and compliance. Say what you want about any subject. Exercise your right to freedom of speech. Send a message to weasel pissants like this that you will not be silenced or intimidated.